Contestant number 3. Raymond Norton, Once Upon a Time. Once Upon a Time, Raymond Norton.
Once upon a time, there was a very handsome prince. No, I mean really handsome prince, who fell in love with a beautiful princess. Okay, already. So he was average looking and slightly balding. But the princess was always beautiful. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guest, wouldn't you agree with me? The very best stories all start with once upon a time. I was considering this and thought how dynamic and fascinating my life would be if it read like a fairy tale. Well, when you start a story with once upon a time, you know there's going to be a hero, moi, a beautiful damsel, my Princess Tammy, and an evil villain. Well, not Stephen Shader. I suppose it could be someone else. Or a difficulty. Something keeping you from living happily ever after. I recall such a tale when my happy ending was in jeopardy in the tale of the Green Fountain. Once upon a time, there was a handsome prince who created a beautiful water fountain that sparkled and glistened like diamonds as the water poured down. Oh, the princess loved the water fountain too and added pretty little goldfish and beautiful floating plants to make it even more stunning. One day, the prince went to go admire his creation and found a wicked witch had cast a spell on the thing. It was slimy and green and full of algae. Well, good for the prince. He knew exactly what to do. He searched the kingdom high and low for a magic potion to break the spell, and he found exactly what he needed. A flask of household bleach, the magic potion of the day. He rushed back to the castle, poured the potion over his creation, and instantly the spell was broken. Well, unfortunately, the potion was a little too strong, and the pretty little goldfish went belly up. And the beautiful floating plants sank to the abyss. The prince was fairly astute here. He understood his happy ending was in jeopardy here if the beautiful sleeping princess awoke discovered his blunder. So he hopped into the chariot, rushed to the store, bought new pretty little goldfish and beautiful floating plants, and tossed them into the fountain before the princess awoke. And they all lived happily ever after. Sometimes the hero faces insurmountable odds, seemingly impossible to conquer, as in the tale of the Dragon of Debt. Once upon a time, there was a handsome prince, held captive by an evil black dragon that soared over the kingdom, taunting the prince and princess with the power he held over them. They were prisoners in their own kingdom, shackled to $100,000 of debt from a failed business. It seemed impossible they would ever escape that prison. But this is a good fairy tale. And the prince and the princess joined force with the White Knight. And they did battle with the Dragon of Death. It raged on for what seemed like an eternity, an impossibility. But united in their determination, a final blow was struck by the sword of the White Knight, and the dragon was slain. And there was rejoicing and celebration throughout the kingdom that day. Some tales bring you laughter. Others bring you joy. But there are dark days in the kingdom. Those tales were yours. As in the tale of the little stars. Once upon a time, there was a heartbroken prince who found himself holding the hand of his beautiful princess, looking into her scared eyes as they suffered through a terrible miscarriage together. It was as if a dagger had pierced their heart and was being turned and twisted around. A very sad and painful day. I'm not sure they could have endured that day had they known the rest of the story. that in the future, 4 more little stars would rise to heaven. And in the end, they never would have any children. But the story doesn't end there. In fact, the ending hasn't even been written. But it will. And the prince and the princess are looking forward to that day, that ending, when they are reunited with their lost children and live happily ever after. If you're like me, you wish every story could be happy through and through. But that really would be a fairy tale, wouldn't it? And it would rob us of the richness of life. You see, the prince and the princess discovered something. It was precisely during those dark and difficult times that the beauty of joined hearts is revealed. When an average-looking, slightly balding husband is transformed into a Prince Charming, and a loving wife, a beautiful princess. Just as with the prince and the princess, each one of you is writing your own story with each passing day. Some of those stories are exciting and beautiful. Some are difficult and sad. But every story deserves a happy ending. And through the laughter, the joy, and the tears, you can write. And they live happily ever after. Mr. Toastmaster.